Hey, Amie,
Yeah, Juan.
give me that beat.
It's Baseball Shangri-La with Amie Cuevas and Juan Ramirez.
What's up, party people? She is Amie Cuevas. I am Juan Ramirez. You are listening or watching Baseball Shangri-La. If you are listening to us on the audio portion of the show, please make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Rate us, write us a review, help spread the word. Tell everybody, come join the party. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. Hit that notification button. Give us a thumbs up. Leave us comments. We love engaging with you. And most importantly, please make sure you're following us on social media. On X at BB Shangri-La, on Instagram, YouTube, and Bluesky at Baseball Shangri-La. Amie, ¿cómo estás?
¿Cómo estás? You do that so well. You are so good at the intro.
Well, Spanish is my first language, so that's why even though it's funny, if I speak to an actual native Spanish speaker, they tell me that I have an accent when I speak Spanish, that I sound weird. But then I have other people that really like some people who say, "Hey, man, like when you speak English, you totally sound like a total white person, and then when you speak Spanish, you are like a Mexican." So
You have admirable code switching capabilities.
there we
Good
go.
job.
I'm a code switcher. How was your weekend, Amie?
Oh my god, it was amazing. We went on a mural tour.
All right, so let's get into the mural tour. Before we get into the mural tour, I do just want to address one of our YouTube comments from the comments corner.
You mean aside from everybody being excited that Kike's back? I think I know which comment you're going for.
Which comment do you think I'm going with?
I think it might have something to do with David Wants a Taco.
That's right. Our boy David Wants a Taco, loyal listener.
I wish I could summon some sirens for him right now.
That's right. David Wants a Taco let us know that he watched the major motion picture Heat for the very first time. And here is David's word for word review of Heat. Heat is dope. That is right, David. Heat is dope. I am so happy for you.
Did you just get Siskel and Ebert chills with that review?
Look, I mean, I am so jealous. I am so envious of him because he got to see Heat for the first time. I remember the first time I saw Heat. I did school my senior year, and I went to the first screening of Heat. And me and my compadre and a bunch of other of my classmates, we actually did school to go see Heat. So David,
wow.
I am so jealous of you that you got to experience the greatness of the major motion picture Heat for the very first time.
See, I saw it in the theater, but I didn't ditch school for it. So
Oh yeah.
I guess I'm not as cool as you.
Well, I mean, you can only try, really.
My live stream when I grow up.
Any other comments you want to address before we get into the mural tour?
I don't think so. I mean, everybody else just being excited that Kike was back. Jose Ayala, DJ Jesse,
Thank you for reminding me. Jose Ayala, I don't know if he shared this with you, but Jose Ayala shared it with me.
Oh, yes, his treasure trove.
Yes, his very impressive collection of bobbleheads. Now, if you are a loyal listener of this show, you guys all know how I feel about bobbleheads. I no longer need toys in my life, but let me tell you, Jose Ayala
Bobblehead snob.
He has an impressive collection
It's
of
in a
bobbleheads.
curio.
And the thing is I think he only shared like half of it with me because he told me, "Oh, I have more in another room." So, hey man, all power to you. You like what you like. Good for you. He's a great supporter of the show. We love him. I got to meet him in person at Dodger Fest. He's a great guy. So, thank you for continuing to watch and listen, Jose. You're the greatest.
Mm-hmm. And just a little shout out. I got this shirt donated to me from one of the guys at the brewery. He does embroidery, not like himself, not like needlepoint, but he has his own company, LR Promotions. And look, I got this cute little Dodgers polo.
All right, look at that. Look at us. Look at us. All right, let's get some baseball talk going with this. And a pleasant good evening to you wherever you may be. All right, Amie, you went on a mural tour of Los Angeles, so I want you to share with us your thoughts on this mural tour. And before you go there, I just want to say this: you hit a couple of murals that I might.
Couple.
Well, yeah,
We
you hit.
hit 15.
Okay.
Some might call it epic.
But I will just say this: there were a few on there that I want to go to that I have not had the pleasure of going to yet.
Are we having a field trip?
We may have a field trip, but I want to ask you this before you go into your tour. There's a lot of people who always say that this is a Laker town, and I've always argued that it's both a Laker and a Dodger town because all those people who are Laker fans are Dodger fans. It's just the seasons are in different times of the year. So when basketball season's over, they all shift their attention to baseball season. And then when baseball season's over, they go back and they shift all their attention to the Lakers.
Which is why it always makes me laugh when there's like this rivalry amongst the different sports, or so-called rivalry, where it's like, we can be both.
Now, it just could be that this new era that we are in with Dodger baseball. But to me, Amie, it feels like we have more Dodger murals now around town than we have Laker murals. I think the majority of the Lakers murals in Los Angeles now are Kobe driven. And I think that's a different animal. But you tell me, you just saw 15. I didn't know it was really 15, but you saw 15 Dodger murals.
16 if you count the Vicente one
Okay.
as its own separate. So
You were all over Los Angeles.
Mhm.
How many Laker murals, just off the top of your head, did you think you saw while you were going to the Dodger murals?
We must have driven by a few, and those were not on our plan. So the fact that we still drove by some that I didn't map out. So, like, for a couple people who asked, this wasn't like something we paid to go do and we were out. Like, this was literally just, I went online, I looked up a bunch of different sites for murals, wrote it all down, mapped it out on Google Maps, and then we hopped in the car and we went.
And you
So
guys can do the same thing. So before I'm going to nip this in the bud, I don't want to see anybody messaging Amie asking, "Hey, Amie, can I get a copy of this tour? Can I?" No, you guys. Amie put in a lot of time, sweat, and tears into this. You guys can do the same thing.
And eventually, like, on my blog, I'll get it all mapped out. I just, like, this weekend wiped me out. Like, we hit so many. It was I highly recommend, like, if you can get a car full of people to go do this. We had so much fun. We had no idea. We were in the car for 5.5 hours. Like, time flew. It was so much fun. So eventually I will get it mapped out, but like seriously, you guys can all just go online and look them up. They're pretty easy to find. We started with a Shohei one. That was like our first one that kind of topped off the trip because
Is
I
it the
brought
one in Little Tokyo, or is this a different
no,
one?
this one was oh god, it was in Los Angeles. It was near Philip and Jessica's house. So
In Boyle Heights, then.
yes, I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
That one I didn't have mapped out. So he knew how to get there. So we went, it was a baseball family trip. So we all mobbed in their car, me, my best friend, Jessica and Philip. And they were gracious enough to like be patient with me because I had my camera on a tripod, plus we had like a tripod for my phone. So we had like
You were
remote.
totally nerding out because you're
Oh,
an artist. You're an
no,
artist.
it
You
was
can't
just,
just take pictures. You take
know,
portraits.
you're not going to be upset when we go on our mural tour 2.0 and I have nice pictures of you too. So shut it. But it was just nice because it was like no person got left behind. Like we all got to jump in pictures and just like laugh, and there were a lot of outtakes, and it was a lot of fun. So I think we hit like 3 Shohei murals between. There was a Showtime one in another part of Los Angeles. There's some of these like we ended up going off the map that I made, and like Philip and Jessica knew where some of them were. So we went off the beaten path, but there were like amazing ones. The Jonas Never one, I believe it's on Blake Avenue, that's just got Gibby and Freddie, and then Shohei and Fernando, and then the stadium as a whole. We also stopped at one that just had Freddie as the Statue of Liberty from Game 1 in the World Series, where he hit that famous hit now, the Grand Slam. There was just so many, and then off to the side you might find other murals. Like we saw one with a lot of like calaveras, and then there was one of Vicente, and we got just stop and take pictures with all of them. Philip even found a dumpster that was painted within LA and got a picture of that. where it was just like it was a lot
Oh,
of
I
fun.
thought that was I thought that was a self-portrait of Mr. Raider himself.
You be
Hi-oh.
nice.
Hi-oh. Two shows nightly at the Pacoima Hilton, everybody. Ooh,
Um,
him.
okay. But I mean, even like some of them we couldn't find right away. Like the Tommy Lasorda one actually was like on like I saw some of these pictures online, but like it was outside of Lasorted Pizza, but it's like this tiny little one. So we're looking for this wall size, and it's like right next to the door. And we didn't know if the guy blocking it was like leading his own tour. Turns out the opening is very small for you to order food and like grab stuff. Like it's a grab and go pizza place. So he was just standing there. We were like, excuse me. We're just trying to get a picture of Lasorda. So it was a mad dash all around the city. We missed the Kike one at first. Ended up at the Joe Kelly one and then realized, oh, it's on the other side of this wall. But because the bar wasn't open, it was behind a gate. So you had to like reach through and hope you don't drop your cell phone on the other side of this locked gate. But it was a lot of fun. There was a lot of really great artwork. There was one that like wrapped around a wall. So the first side was like Mookie Theo, Freddie,
That's
Tommy
the one on
Edman, and
Hooper.
Shohei. Yes,
That's the newest one, and I will say I have not seen it in person,
it was
Amy,
amazing.
but that is my favorite one. That is the one that my family and I are planning to take our picture. We started a new tradition in
Do
2020,
you need a photographer?
and we may need a photographer. Do you know where I can get one, friend?
I mean, I know somebody who has a tripod and a camera.
Thanks, friend. Appreciate it. I'm very excited actually to see that one because I do think that that mural is beautiful. You were saying it's three-sided.
It's three-sided. So that's the first side, and just it rivals the one. I shouldn't say rivals. They are beautiful in different ways. That one that we saw on Blake Avenue. But this one is just that while that one was black and white, this one was color. And so the middle piece it's got like, the Dodgers sign World Series, and it's got Vinny and Fernando and I think it was Tommy Lasorda on it. So you see them above it kind of in heaven. And then off to the side, you've got like a lot of the pitchers, a lot of the key players that, we know. So like some of like Banda wearing the Mr. Cartoon mask and
Daddy Bonda.
yes, sure. Kike, Walker Bueller, like all the guy you got the dogs, like the bullpen, like and Dave Roberts, and then the trophy. Like it really popped. And it was a lot of fun. Like we all have our different favorite players. So like getting to take pictures with those and just kind of goof around, but also like just have memories of like what we just experienced at the end of the postseason, and then being able to do this before the season started. So lots of great murals. It was sad the Jackie Robinson one off Sunset has gotten tagged over. So there's only like the very top of it, which I saw that I think 5 years ago when we did a mural tour, and it's just a bummer that that one's getting painted over. But
Oh, that does suck. Do you have a favorite of the 15 that you saw?
oh man, I think it's the one that you want to go see. Mainly because we didn't get to see the other Kike one right up close, but this one had it, and then it had so many of the other like you got to see a lot of the other players where a lot of the other ones showcased Shohei, Freddie, Fernando, and while those are amazing, this one kind of showcased everybody. So it encompassed a lot more. So I think that would be my favorite.
And then, correct me if I'm wrong. Did you have costume changes?
I did.
Wow, that is a
Well,
commitment to a photo shoot.
so
You, madam, are a professional.
I can't even take credit for that because as we were like packing up gear and like communicating on our group text the night before, it was like, God, I don't know what jersey to wear. And Jessica's like, bring a couple, have costume changes. And it was like, I can do that. Oh wait, I'm an adult. I can do whatever I want. So I brought my Kike jersey, and then I had my Cuevas jersey.
Yeah, I noticed, and that because you had your blue,
Uh-huh.
and I was like, wait a
Because
minute.
that's my 2020 World Series jersey. It has the patch on the side, and then I also had my new jacket that I just got for myself for Valentine's Day, but it was way too warm by the end of the day to put that on, and we all like Philip had his cool new jacket, and it was just like, yeah, we're not doing jackets. It's too
Well,
hot.
speaking of jackets, can we talk about fashion? Can you please tell us that new jacket that you got, the one that you posted on social media?
Oh yeah, that's the one I took with me. So it
What
has
is this jacket? Because I believe every team has that version of that jacket, correct?
I'm not sure. It came from I think like it's Pro something. I'm gonna have to look it up. Pro Standard. So I don't know if everybody has a version. I didn't look that far, but like I ordered that in the beginning of January, and it happened to arrive on Valentine's Day. So, but it has like a calavera or a Dia de los Muertos skull on the back. It's got LA and Los Angeles and stuff, like patches all over it. Pretty amazing. I love
You
it.
know what? I don't think you did. Did you post it to social media? Or
I did. I put it on.
you did.
Yeah, I
I
did.
just remember our friend Snacks. Our friend Snacks.
Oh, yes.
Being very complimentary about that jacket. I think he was
Yeah.
a little jealous. I think Snacks wanted that jacket.
I liked that it had a lot of the kind of like Latino flair on it, like some of just the patterning and everything. So it made me really happy to have something that not only reflected our team but us as people. So it just it's my new jacket.
So speaking of costume changes, and you have all that stuff, so that's basically your wardrobe that you wear on the way to spring training, correct? Those are going to be your options at spring training?
Oh, because I'm gonna hit the ground running and I might be if I'm working that first day, I may be in corporate casual.
Corporate casual, like that tee that polo you're wearing today?
I no, because this has Dodgers on it, and my very first spring training, I was advised by somebody
That's right.
that we have to, as media, we have to be non-biased. So on this show, I can sport my gear, but when I'm working in a media capacity, it is.
Which is very interesting because that person was on television this past weekend plugging his book. So
I mean,
you guys can figure it out if you really pay attention to this show. You can.
No. It was a valuable lesson to learn though, as I was first getting into stuff like that, and I take being a professional in this role very seriously, and on our show we can kick back a little bit more.
Yeah, thank goodness we have one professional on this show. Damn it. Yeah.
Well, maybe you know what? Maybe I will if it's cold. I don't think it'll be cold. I'll wear my jacket on the plane, but I'll take it with me because there may be games I'm not working, and if I'm going as a fan, then I might.
I feel sad for you only because this takes me back to my childhood when you remember starter jackets, or was that before your time?
No. We're like 2 years apart.
Okay, so starter jackets were the
No,
shit.
They were only around for the 2 years before I was born.
If you had a starter jacket and you were rocking it at school, like you were a hero, right? So everybody would be rocking their starter jackets. And one Christmas, I got me a Raiders starter jacket. It was the only gift I got. I was so happy.
Was it a satin one or was it a puff? Because there were some.
It was the puff up one. It was the one.
Okay, I had a Dallas Cowboys puff up one.
Yeah, so I had my Raiders starter jacket all puffed up, and my mother would refuse to let me wear it outside of the house because, in her words, "Me van a confundir con cholo." And for those of you who aren't listening on the SAP button, what that means is they're going to think I'm a gangbanger. So I was not allowed to wear my Raiders starter jacket outside the house. So I would only do my own fashion show inside the house wearing my Raiders jacket back when Bo Jackson was running people over with the Raiders. So
did you get to wear it like in the backyard?
Yes, I was able to wear it in the back. So
I'm imagining like the Narcos where he's just kind of like standing bummed out, but like you with your jacket.
Thank you for reducing me to a meme, friend. I appreciate that.
You're welcome, amigo.
So,
I think it's funny that you couldn't wear it. It's almost like when we got LA gear, and then it was like, oh, you can't wear those to school. Like,
if you have overprotective Mexican mothers on your
British
bingo
Knights.
Card.
Sorry, not LA gear, British Knights.
Well, because they were blood killers, right?
Yeah.
That's what it stood for.
I think so.
Yeah. So hey, overprotective mothers, bless your heart. We love you. You got to protect your children's. I just feel because that jacket, in the words of Snacks, is sick. That's a jacket that should be seen. So I just feel bad that it's we're going to be getting to the point where it's going to be too warm to wear it, and you're not going to be able to show off.
I'll still wear it. I wore it to the brewery Friday night, so I had it out.
The famous brewery. All right. All right, let's get into some spring training. As we're going to segue there, we have some updates. Amie, where do you want to start with this?
Well, I don't know if you heard this. We signed some players.
Oh, yes, we did. Let's go. Let's not bury the lead any longer. 20 minutes into the show. All right.
Thank you for indulging me on our Mural tour talk. So Kike Hernandez, his contract was official as of last Tuesday. Gavin Stone got moved to the IL to make room for him on the 40-man, and we did get his final amount. So he has a 1-year, $6.5 million contract.
Still feels like a bargain to me.
I feel like he's worth more.
Yeah.
I just
Who was the one that recently signed a deal and you were like, and Kike better get just as much?
Kenley Jansen,
Oh, that's
because he
right.
got 10 million, and I was like, Kike's won a World Series more recently than Kenley.
By the way, I did share it with you that my daughter has become a social assassin because after seeing that Kenley Jansen signed with the Angels, she sent me a message saying, "This is how you know your career is over."
Yeah.
So,
I just think she's savvy.
so hey, look, he seemed thrilled to be back. I do think he's going to play an important role on this team. It just really seems like it is a bargain, but maybe this is something that you've been harping on, Amie, and that is it is more important for him to be on the team that he wants to be on than the money.
Well, and he had an interview, and then Andrew Friedman was interviewed on Dodger territory. But essentially, Kike was saying like there wasn't a lot of interest in him in this offseason as much as he thought there would be, and he attributes that to he was very vocal before the season ended, after the season ended, etc., that he wanted to come back to the Dodgers. So I don't know if that was like not he shot himself in the foot, but like from a marketing perspective. Um,
Well, you could probably say that's the same thing with the Oscar, right? Like how much that the Oscar basically being out there begging the Dodgers to re-sign him, how much did that actually hurt his market?
And you wonder because Jack Flaherty, what did we talk about? He just recently signed with the Tigers, but it took this long for him to get that. And he also was very loud about wanting to come back to the Dodgers. So, I mean, I guess in this case, like at least it worked out for the Hernandez brothers, but just yeah, it was a bummer. I wanted to see him get higher, but Andrew Freeman was saying that they like some teams when they're looking for a player, they might have backups. He said for them it was Kike or nothing. And so they meant it when they said that that door was open for him depending on if him and his wife wanted to come back. But he was also saying that Kike made an impact in October off the field too, and he said it was one of the most impressive displays of leadership he's ever seen, which we don't always think of that when we think of Kike because he's so goofy, he plays around, but that's something I was just talking about with somebody else recently. You and I have been privy to seeing him work on the field with the other guys taking grounders before the game. That guy works hard. He may goof off, but he is a hard worker. And for me, because of what he does on and off the field, and even having Andrew Friedman, basically corroborate like his leadership skills are way more evolved than they were when he first came to the team. That's why I was so shocked that it was just $6.5 million. But
did he cite specific examples of where Kike's leadership came in that interview?
He did, but that notebook is across the room. Basically, it was just in like different situations with different groups of players, but he went out of his way to mentor different players and meet them at their level.
The reason why I bring it up is I thought maybe you were referencing the "we don't give a f"
No,
comment as that was leadership.
Oh no, that was not included in there. But basically off field, not, like he was actually like important in the clubhouse during the off season in October.
There was another signing, or do you have something else that you want to add with Kike before we move on?
I mean, I guess there was this guy, I guess he's been on the team for like 18 seasons. I mean, some people refer to him as Crenshaw. Have you heard of this guy?
Yes.
So okay, all kidding aside, Clayton Kershaw on Thursday signed a 1-year, $7.5 million contract, which kind of made me feel a little better about Kike's because I was like, all right, well, it's only $1 million more than Kike's. But he has roster and game start bonuses, and River Ryan was moved to the IL to make room for Kershaw.
So. Crenshaw's contract really surprised me. Not the number, not the 7.5, but have you seen the breakdown on that?
I have not.
So let me go over the breakdown with you. So that deal includes $1 million for if he pitches in 13 games, 14 games, 15 games, 16 games. So if he
Well,
gets to pitch to 13 games, he'll get $1 million. If he pitches 14 games, he'll get another $1 million. So that's like $4 million extra that he will get.
well, that's also like almost doubling what he pitched last year though, because he was only in 7 games. So I think they're trying to like incentivize. Obviously, he can't do anything about his health. He's going to do his best to stay healthy, but he did only pitch in 7 games last year. So if he
But wait, there's more, Amie.
What?
It also includes $2.5 million for 30 days on the active roster. Okay. For if he's on the roster for 30 consecutive days, he'll get $2.5 million. And
Okay, so I take back what I said about Kike's contract being similar to his. I don't think there's any like additional.
And the last one, Amie, he'll get another $1 million if he's on the active roster for 60 days. So this to me just illustrates what you just said right now. I think there is a legitimate concern that this guy may not make it back on the field, or if he does make it back on the field, we don't know how long he's going to be on there. And I think this Dodgers team is a little different where in the past you needed Kershaw. I mean, there was a period last year when with all the injuries, he was their best pitcher before he got hurt. I think with all the acquisitions the Dodgers pitchers made, I don't think you go in there. I think this is really paying tribute to him, everything he's done for the Dodgers. This is for him to have. He said this that when he reported to spring training this year, he said he wasn't done and he didn't want to go out like that, how he went last year. So that to me says a couple of things. To me, he knows the end is coming. The end is closer than I don't want to say than we all thought, because I think it was already on the back of everyone's mind.
The wear and tear is there on his body.
That Kershaw's, but I think this is about him now going out on his terms. So for the first time, I think I am confident in saying I no longer think, oh, he's going to go play for the Rangers. I think if Kershaw stays healthy this year and he's on that roster in the playoffs and they win the World Series, I can really see him at the parade announcing his retirement and walking off into the sunset, because for me, when he says, I didn't want to go out that way, he knows the end is near. It's just him. Look, and a lot of athletes don't really have that opportunity to go out on their own terms. But seeing how this contract, because when I initially saw this
not
breakdown,
all organizations are this friendly to their more mature players.
Exactly. And so when I first saw the breakdown of this contract, Amie, I was in there going, why would his agent agree to this? Right. And then I really thought about, and it's exactly what you just said. I think it's Kershaw going to his agent saying, I don't want to go anywhere else. I want to go with the Dodgers. And I think it's both sides acknowledging, yes, there is a health concern here, but this is something that the last guys that I can remember doing this are two of my favorite players, which were Tony Gwynn and Cal Ripken, playing their entire career with one team. And Kershaw has the ability to do that. And I think it's also important to the Dodgers that we only see, when we see highlights of Clayton Kershaw, we only see him wearing a Dodgers uniform.
Well, and so a few things on that. So I have a couple stats written down. As of this signing, he's the 59th player in MLB history with the same club. And he has 18 plus seasons as far as the stat goes. But he is the only active player right now with 18 or more years of service on the same team. And I think it might be a bigger question if the Rangers hadn't had a down season after they won the World Series, like we saw last year. It wasn't the season we thought that they would have. But on top of that, like he just said that he spent 4 weeks on crutches, 4 weeks in a boot. He's 14 weeks now outside of outside of that surgery, but he just ran for the first time at Camelback Ranch when he got there. So I think that also indicates, he's going to have to work up to even get some of those incentives just to be healthy, either on that opening day roster or a little later when they activate him.
I understand your points on the Rangers, but there was something, I think, now that the players are reporting to camp, that came out of there that I thought, and I've heard this from multiple players, that the parade really made a difference to them.
Mm-hmm. Especially because they didn't get it in 2020.
That being in that parade and being a part of that celebration really wanted to go through it again. Why are you laughing at me?
You made a difference. You were on that parade route. Look, you helped make sure that Kershaw came back. Way to go.
So that's why I'm no longer worried about him finishing his career anywhere else, because I understand your point about the Rangers taking a step back.
I'm not saying that would have factored in and he would have totally gone the other way, but I think that also takes some of that off of your plate, where everybody was speculating Dodgers or Rangers, and it's like, it's a little easier when the team's not doing as well as they were.
But I also think that the moves that the front office made this offseason are also, I think, very telling to Kershaw, because I'm sure Kershaw wishes that this front office did what they did when he was in his prime. And because I don't think there is one single player on this team, and I understand the unicorn is the unicorn, but I don't believe that there is one single player on this team that feels the pressure that they have to carry this team, that it's all on them, the way Kershaw carried this Dodger team in his prime.
Yeah, I don't disagree, especially with, like, we talk about it periodically, like that book that came out about him and just some of the struggles, and whether it was, a lot was asked of him by the front office, or he volunteered and, things just didn't go the way that we all wanted. I'm sure he would like that. He would like a do-over on some of those. Maybe it is, what? No, I cannot pitch in this game. Figure out somebody else. And then he's fresher to pitch in another game, and that changes the outcome. We don't really do the what if game, but like, I'm sure we all have, I don't want to say regrets, but like, if you had an opportunity to do it over, like to your point, seeing them spend like this as he's kind of on his way out, he's closer to the end than he is the beginning. Like, there's got to be some like, that's cool.
Yeah, look, drink, everybody. I think that was my first one, 30 minutes in. Wow.
If we have somebody audit it, before 30 minutes, let us know.
I'm making progress, everybody. He said it in the celebration last year when they asked him to speak, and he's like, but I didn't do anything. I'm sure there's something that's also a part of him that wants to be an active contributor to winning a championship. But if you look at that 88 team that won the World Series, Valenzuela got a World Series ring out of it, but he didn't pitch in the postseason. He was injured, and that is a guy who was a huge part of that organization up until that point where they won the World Series. So while I'm sure it's an awkward moment for them, it's like, well, but I really didn't contribute. It's like, your blood, sweat, and tears are a part of this organization. You are a part of this win.
Up to that point, and it's not always on the field contributions that make the greatest impact. You can still make an impact off the field, helping other people, keeping the morale up. And, just because he wasn't on the field for more than 7 games, he still had an impact on that team.
And talking about impact, I mean, Blake Snell was throwing his first bullpen session in spring training, and he was going off about how crazy it was that Kershaw was watching his bullpen.
And then he, in turn, turned around and watched Bobby Miller's and is giving him pointers.
I've heard this many times. People say it's an embarrassment of riches over there. There are more aspects of this that we're going to go into as we progress on this. But what other updates do you have in terms of spring training?
So we did hear Evan Phillips. He won't be ready to start the season with the team because he had a torn rotator cuff. And so he had that happened during the postseason. He had a PRP injection in November, but he didn't even get to pick up a baseball until January. So he's one of the ones where we were wondering about like how he was pitching, and this really just confirms.
Do we know if the plan is for him to start on the 60-day? Or did they go into any details on that?
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm going to go with I don't know on this one.
There's another person that is also going to start their season. They're behind. Do you know who that person is?
I have a lot of people written down. What is in your head?
Michael Kopech.
Yes.
Color me shocked, everybody. Did we not have this? Is why people watch this show, people listen to this show, and that is proof one right there. Okay, a couple of episodes back, what did I say, Amie? And I know you're gonna sit there and go, "These guys can't predict injury, Juan." I know. All I'm saying is,
I was just about to say, and then what did I say?
and I'm not gonna be shocked when the Dodgers come out there and say Michael Kopech is going to start the season on the injured list, because what Bob Nightingale reported a while back was that he had issues. And then Brandon Gomes is out there saying, we don't know what he's talking about. Nobody said anything about this. And then now they come out there and they say, yeah, Michael Kopech is behind, so he's probably going to start his season a little late. Again, Amie, I know this doesn't bother you as much as it bothers me, but sometimes you really don't have to say anything. You could have just come out there now and say, you know what, Michael Kopech is dealing with something. He's a little late, and but
maybe what they thought it wasn't as big of a deal then, and it's become a bigger deal as he's gotten back with the team and they've gotten to check him out a little bit more. You're right.
All these bullpen signings now, do they all make sense to you now? I feel like half of the bullpen already is on the injured list. Brewstar is going to start late,
which we already knew.
And now Evan Phillips is gone. Michael Kopech is going to be late, which makes it very fascinating because we talked on our last episode about who's going to get that last spot on the bench. Now I feel like the bullpen is wide open because you already know these guys are going to start on the injured list. So people that we thought, you're looking at Ben Kasparis, you're looking at some of these young guys that I'm like, they might have a chance of being on the opening day roster.
So you're saying there's a chance.
I'm saying there's a Samsonite. Okay. Anyways, more updates.
Mary Swanson. Let's see. God, I have a whole list here. So Evan Phillips, and as you mentioned, Michael Kopech. Dalton Rushing, they're saying that his focus will be development behind the plate, but he is also taking grounders at first base. They say it's to be determined.
First base. So no longer the outfield. It is first base now.
Wait. So it's
there's more?
But wait, there's more. It's to be determined on what his outfield work may or may not look like. And that's just Doc commenting on him having been playing in left field. So they're going to focus him on behind the plate and I guess first base. Maybe. He just happened to be out there taking grounders.
I feel so bad for him. I wonder how many gloves he carries in his bag now.
All of them. All of them.
Go ahead.
It's not the first time we've seen this experiment. It won't be the last time. We know this.
As people all of a sudden now are going through flashbacks of seeing Jock Peterson play first base.
Or Gavin Lux play in the outfield, and then, that
the chalk outline that was on the wall.
Collision in the outfield. Yes.
The wall won.
Oh my God, that was so great. Also, the broadcast schedule came out for spring training. So Sportsnet LA will get 22 games. There will be 15 games on AM 570. Those will be done by Tim Neverett and Rick Monday. And then obviously we're going to hear from Dave Vasse. And then there will be 6 games broadcast on the Spanish station, KTNQ, 10:20 a.m. And that's with Pepe, Jose Mota, and then Luis Cruz. So it'll be Luis's first time broadcasting with Pepe and you guys. Yeah. So the first spring training exhibition game will be February 20th versus the Cubs. So 12 o'clock Pacific time. I know when I'm taking my lunch that day.
So we are recording this on Monday the 17th. So we're going to have on our next episode, we're going to be able to actually talk about actual spring training games, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to speed up real quick, real fast at this point, because the middle of March is the Tokyo series. And we're going to talk about the Tokyo series a little later in the series. More updates, Amie.
Yeah, so and Sportsnet LA is actually going to cover the 2 exhibition games, so preceding that Tokyo series. So they'll both actually be on March 15th, but they're hours apart. Um, so it's against the Yomiuri Giants and then the Hanshin Tigers. So those will also be on Sportsnet LA. So keep an eye out for that.
And I heard that the Honshin Tigers are great.
Okay, Tony the Tiger, settle down.
2 shows nightly at the Pacoima Hilton,
We
everybody.
don't need Kellogg's coming after us.
I digress. More updates, Amy.
Let's see. It also was put out there that the Dodgers are looking into some of those pitching issues. Obviously, they had the highest rate of pitcher injuries last year, so they're taking a deep dive on that. And they're going to continue looking into it. But some of those, as we discussed in episodes before, it's endemic with how people are being trained. When they're coming up from high school, college, etc. So it's not just a quick fix. They're saying like we can control what happens once they get to the Dodgers. And yes, they can look at making some changes to how they are training pitchers. But they didn't have any big like aha moments. So remains to be seen, especially as we're seeing Ohtani, he threw his first bullpen on Saturday. So they're basically saying like they're in uncharted territory, not only with Ohtani, but kind of figuring out how do they shift gears so that their players don't get injured with such a high frequency.
And everybody just calm down. Okay, the bullpen, the unicorn, I think, wasn't even going 3/4 speed. I saw reports he was topping out at 91, 92. So I think
So he threw between 92 and 94. The tech was down, so they didn't have all the computers up, so they were having to use like whatever gear they had. But like it was mentioned, I don't know how many pitches total he threw, but he did throw 14 fastballs and they were in that 92, 94 range.
yeah, it was all fastballs. So we all know that the other pitches are the ones that can really put strain on your arm. And I have to remind everyone, this is him coming back from his second. It's a modified Tommy John or whatever, but let's just say it's 2 Tommy Johns that he's coming back from.
Plus the other shoulder surgery.
Right. So I still think it is realistic that you're not going to see him pitch. I keep hearing May. I would say June. I'd say June in the earliest.
They're saying like May, like best case. He did throw all of his pitches on flat ground prior to that bullpen session on Saturday. But he's progressing. That's what they're saying. He's also not going to do a rehab start because they still need him to DH. So they might be doing some of those like sim games that we've seen before games. And just, have different hitters. Either if they're at home games, bring in some of the guys from like Rancho Cucamonga, or if they're on the road, they'll just have some of the bench players, come in and hit him. But it is very doubtful that he will be pitching in any Cactus League games. So nobody gets their hopes up, just DH.
That's right.
So any other thoughts on Shohei before we move on to
no shots? No thoughts on the unicorn.
Okay. All right. You're very calm this episode, unicorn wise. Before we get into some of the speeches that got us all fired up, there were some conversations with players as spring training kicked off. So like Mookie Betts was getting talks, obviously a lot of those questions where we see his demeanor change a little bit, where it's just like, so about the World Series. And it's like, hey, we've already moved on. We've turned that page. He got the question a couple of times. So it's just, him kind of repeating we've moved on, where, we're not going to worry about the end goal. We're focused on, day to day, whatever. So just hearing him, and Miguel Rojas was asked quite a few questions about working with Mookie, about Kike. Obviously he's happy about Kike. That's one of his like favorite buddies in the clubhouse. And he said he's just a piece of the puzzle. So it's good to have him back. But he was saying that working with Mookie, he's working to get mentally and physically prepared. He's just getting more reps at that spot. And Miguel's just going to be that mirror for him out there as he's transitioning over to shortstop. But essentially that Mookie had found his slot, which is what's going to help him, when he has to make throws to first base, home, etc. So he's progressing better in that spot because he's had all off season to not only mentally prepare, but also now he's getting to physically prepare for it.
Look, drink, everybody. Can we talk? I know that Mookie gets a lot of grief, in particular because of his off the field activities. But
let the man bowl.
I love hearing that from Mookie, and I want to contrast it to Miguel Rojas. One of the things about Mookie, especially in post game interviews, you feel like maybe Mookie doesn't really say anything. Like Mookie is really just, but I just feel like there's no BS to Mookie. And I love that from the beginning, Mookie is setting the tone that this is not last year. Okay.
Hmm.
What we accomplished last year was last year. If we want to do the same thing that we did last year, then we need to focus on this year and remind we haven't done anything yet. Right. So I love that. And you see that contradiction from Mookie when you hear Miguel Rojas on interviews telling everybody that the Dodgers are going to win 116 games, they're going to win 120 games, that they're going to set the record for wins. We know because we've been in this club in that clubhouse, Amie, that the players kind of police themselves in that clubhouse. Dave Roberts, I don't feel gets involved that much. I am very curious to see if other players in that clubhouse are going to go to Miguel Rojas, who's a very well respected veteran who they defer to a lot. But I am curious if those guys in that clubhouse are going to walk up to Miguel Rojas and be like, "Cálmate, stop with this 116, 120 talk. Okay, we're just out there. We're going to try to win as many games as we can. The focus is to be prepared, and we got to get into the playoffs." This whole thing about the talking, Amie, I don't know if you saw Aaron Boone's comments. Did you see what Aaron Boone said this past week?
I saw something about it. I didn't deep dive into it. Refresh my memory because I do have a comment back on the Miguel Rojas thing. But go ahead.
So Aaron Boone, and I'm going to paraphrase this, Aaron Boone had just said, look, we want to be at the same position that the Dodgers were in last year. We want to win the World Series as well. And my hope is that when we win the World Series, that we will handle it with more class than the Dodgers did. Now, a lot has been said about the Dodgers trash talking. Now, mind you, I think the biggest trash talking, with maybe the exception of Kike, the biggest trash talking I think came from guys who really didn't play a big role in them winning the World Series. And we love Mariachi Joe, but Mariachi Joe was talking a lot of shit, and he really wasn't a major reason why they won the World Series. Chris Taylor was the one who made the comment that we knew the Yankees were going to piss down their leg. And Chris Taylor, I don't think, played a game in the World Series. Did he? Correct me if I'm wrong.
He might have played in like one or two. I mean, I will say, not in his defense, but I mean that was a very crass way of talking about the intel that they had on the team, though, because the scouting sheets told them from a certain perspective that their fielding was going to be a problem. So if they could get past some of that, then they could get around their defense. So I think it's just more of a crass way of saying what was on the scouting sheets.
So uh, you can't change. They've already said what they said. They already, but that's the
And
reason
Jack
why.
Flaherty recently just kind of not dialed it down, but with the Manny Machado thing, like he was on, I think it was foul territory.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
But again, to me, that's why I love Mookie's comment, where it's just like, all right, guys, it's time for us to shut up and we got to play now. I get it. We can talk all the smack in the moment we want because we won the World Series and no one's going to be able to take that away from us. But we're getting ready now for the season, so this should be all business. So I love what Mookie said. Your thoughts on the Miguel Rojas?
I'm just wondering if somebody didn't already say something to him because I didn't see the interview that you're talking about, but in the one that I was listening to, he was talking about like they're obviously post World Series, they're still hungry. The front office cleared the slate on last year, basically with a lot of the additions so that they could get ready for this year. And that one of the things that Doc relied on in that World Series was talent and character. They had the talent, but there were some of those games that were make or break and they needed character to push them over the line. So it just, I feel like these guys all have a different way of addressing some of this stuff. The 116 games aside, I didn't see that, so I don't want to speak on it out of turn. But it just feels like Mookie always gets a bad rap for being so direct, where it's just like, but where's the lie? Like, shouldn't they? I mean, we're going to get into what some of the stuff Doc said and some of the other players who backed him up. They're all focusing on one game at a time. So why does he get so much flack, it feels like, for just speaking the same thing, albeit maybe in his own way?
What I just find really interesting is that the biggest smack talkers are not the stars, are not the ones that are basically making huge contributions to the Dodgers winning. And I think that's where you get the dynamic. Like, I know you hate smack talk. I
Yeah.
respect the rules of smack talk. I don't believe you should do it. I'm of the Barry Sanders school, where you just score a touchdown and you hand the ball to the referee, or you point at the scoreboard. And go, and
I feel like the scoreboard speaks for itself.
exactly. I think the scoreboard is the biggest smack talker of them all. I don't know if it's because this team has now become so stacked. And I also just feel that's who Miguel Rojas is. Miguel Rojas is a very personable person. If you want a player to talk to, especially on the Doyers, more than likely Miguel Rojas is the guy who's going to say yes to you to talk to you. I feel Will Smith is the same way. Will Smith, I think, always says yes, but Will Smith will never say anything, controversial or he won't make the kind of comments that Miguel Rojas.
He's neutral.
So I don't know if this is a battle for relevancy, because it's just like, hey, bro, if worse comes to worse and you're getting outplayed, you're low man on the totem pole. I mean, Mookie's playing shortstop for us. Edmund can play shortstop for us. So I found it interesting only because I heard Dave Vassay bring it up on Dodger Talk, that he was just like, Miguel Rojas is talking a lot. And to your point, Amie, I think Dave Vassay was saying, if they haven't already, not the front office, the players will be the ones that will approach him and say, "Bájale tu pedo, man. We're here to play baseball. Let's just focus on the baseball. We don't need these other distractions." And I also think it's crazy. I know everybody. I don't think you think they're going to win that many games, Amie. I think the same thing that's going to happen with them happens every year. There's going to be injuries. They're going to be conservative.
Just an optimistic person. I think that's part of his personality. So I don't think he's going out there trying to start, he's not trying to start Beto. He's just trying to he is really hoping for that. I think in his heart of hearts, that's his goal. Yes, let's do this. And maybe not even thinking about, as we've seen, some players don't always think about the ramifications of after the fact of when they say it. There's not anything wrong with him saying it, but the team's mentality typically is, let's play it one game at a time. So,
I'm not concerned about it because, again, like I said, I feel what Mookie said that carries more weight, and I love the approach that Mookie took. I want to segue into the speeches.
Which is funny because I don't take it as anyway when they're all saying this stuff, because they all have different personalities and they are all, even if the team mentality is one thing, they're all still going to have their own perspective on it. So to me, it's not like Mookie was right, Miguel was wrong. It's more just like, okay, that's what that player had to say. And for me, that's kind of where I shut the door on it. I don't think I'd take it any farther than that, beyond all right, cool. That's Mookie's perspective. That's Miguel's.
True. I do want to go into what Dave Roberts and what Freddie Freeman said as they spoke to the team at the when everybody reported to spring training.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they had their first squad workout. I believe that was Saturday. I want to say.
Yeah, it was last week.
Yeah. Did you want to
go ahead? Go ahead.
Oh.
Go ahead.
No, I didn't want to take your fire there. The gist of Doc's thing was basically everybody needs to chip in to help win one game at a time, and then they'll take what they learned from that one game and they're going to repeat it the next day. So the goal is focus on that one game. But he said by the end of the day, they should be more mentally than physically exhausted. So they need to mentally be staying in this. So you can have the muscle memory, the physical like workout and whatever. You should have that. You're a player. That's part of like being a player. But he wants them mentally exhausted by the end of this because they need to be mentally in this game to be able to do that, focus on today's game and then move on to the other.
You know what that's about, Amie?
Why don't you tell me, Juan?
That's about them avoiding Rocky 3. That's what that is. That is Dave Roberts telling everybody,
This is
you got
where
to
I
have
wish
the eye of the
I
tiger.
wish this wasn't water.
Yeah, you got to have the eye of the tiger, meaning you have to keep engaged. Do not rest on your laurels. Do not. It's the same thing that Mookie said, which is what we accomplished was last year. This year, we haven't done anything. And I feel like that's the message that Dave Roberts is, from day one in spring training, we're probably going to hear it throughout the regular season. It's stay engaged, stay engaged. I think it's probably human nature, Amie, for them to be like, our team is stacked. We're going to automatically make the playoffs. Wake me up when the playoffs start. And that could be a dangerous mentality to have.
You feel like they have that?
I don't think they have, but I think your responsibility, especially as a manager, is to make sure that doesn't creep in. Like, I don't think they have it only because they have so many new additions. They have people on this team that weren't a part that won the World Series that are hungry to win their first World Series. That's why I think it's extremely smart of the front office to bring in new blood to keep those guys in check so they don't take things for granted. But as a manager, I think you have to do that. You have to prepare this team and constantly remind them that they can't be complacent and they can't take things for granted. I think another reason why you won't have it with this team is you have the level of competition just to stay on the roster. There are so many injuries, but once these people start getting healthy, we're going to have a numbers crunch. And if you're not performing, you're going to be a candidate exactly. Pa fuera, pa fuera.
I think I agree with all of that. I think it's funny because this seems to be the message they have every year though. Like it's just a different variation on it because they're always like, yeah, that was last year, this is this year, or that was, before the All-Star break, this is after. So I feel like this team always has a pretty good perspective on like, no, we need to keep not only our eye on the prize, but we got to get there first. So it's one game, it's one series at a time. I feel like that's a theme that we hear year in and year out from these guys. So I think Dave, it's his responsibility to remind them of that. But we've heard variations of this in the clubhouse, for years, as far as like, all right, guys, clean slate, let's go.
And that's why I loved Federico's speech. Do you want to let everybody know what Federico had to say?
So he said before he lays himself to sleep on his pillow every night, he asks himself, did I give everything that I have? And so he waxed poetic a little bit on baseball, but basically they need to make it feel special when they walk into the clubhouse because that's what's going to translate out onto the field because what they're doing is something special. I'm tagging you in.
Well, look, I feel, Drake, especially coming from Federico, what I loved hearing in that speech was he mentioned, this is my second World Series win. Mookie's won 3. There's a couple other people in this clubhouse that have won 2. And what I love hearing is
PK, Kershaw.
I love hearing the message of 2 is not enough for me. 3 is not enough for Mookie. We want to.
Mookie wants his whole hand.
He wants the whole hand, but I also love the fact that Federico was just saying, once you experience winning, everything else is a disappointment, right? So put in the work now and it's going to pay off in the end. So when you have that level of messaging, I think it really makes it hard for other people to lollygag, to take it for granted, because someone is going to be holding you accountable that, look, we all have to pull in the same direction. You got to do your job, know your role, do your thing. So I think that everything that I'm hearing in the beginning of spring training is everything that I would love to hear from a defending champion. And I can't wait for the season to start. I'm ready for baseball. I want to see games.
Oh my God. Everything that you just said, but also like what each of them does impacts the rest of the team on the field too. So you've got to be ready to like even when we do this show, like whatever I do impacts you on this show and vice versa. Like we've got to be ready. And I feel like they bring that mentality not only to the clubhouse, but to the field. And we see it translate into how they play, but also how they care about each other. And oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say just you more so than me, because I'm the one that always pulls surprises on you, and bless your heart, you always have to be ready for this wasn't we didn't discuss this. What are you doing right now? Okay,
All right,
whatever.
I'm gonna follow along.
Yeah.
But no, but I mean but we have our different roles on here. Like I'm more skilled at like some of the admin stuff. You are really good at like the show, like you make the show flow. We both come up with the outline, but you help move it along. You do the intros and the outros. You make this a smooth show. Like we have our strengths on this show. And that's why we work so well together. And that's why the Dodgers work so well together. I also liked Mookie's comments on discipline, that they have to do everything the right way. And that's what you hear about, like, pilots. Like, it doesn't matter if you've flown a plane like a million times, you still need to go over your checklist before you fly so that you don't get complacent and make that mistake. I like that he's harping on discipline, and Max Muncy was basically focusing on like, what can we do today? The past doesn't matter anymore. The future's not here yet. What can we do today? Which really just echoes what Doc was already saying when he gave his speech.
I love when Dave Roberts made reference to T work. And in particular, I think it was Federico that he had mentioned. Look, you and I have been there on the field. Federico always comes out to do fielding drills
When he
with
was
Dino Abel.
running with his, like, the fielding drills, yes, but, like, even when his foot was taped up and we knew that ankle was not okay, and we still watched him trot back and forth before every game just to try to make sure it was okay, like, that's determination. Like, I think that's what he even said in his speech, something about, like, what all of these guys have done to be on the field, and, like, no one more than him even.
But it speaks to his greatness. The reason why he is great is because he continues to do the work, and he
Mhm,
doesn't have this feeling that he's above it all. Like
mhm.
I'm a major leaguer. I'm an all-star. I've accomplished all these things. I don't need to do that anymore. But yet he is still out there doing the little things that will make him great. And I would love to be a young player on this team growing up and like watching this. So, I mean, this is where you pick up good habits. You don't want to bring up, bad habits. Shout out
Di
to Ed Sheeran.
Okay.
Hi, two shows nightly at the Pecora Hilton,
Wow,
everybody.
an Ed Sheeran shout out. I did not have that on my bingo card. Wow.
Uh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna you threw me off with the Ed Sheeran thing.
See, this is what we're talking about. She needs to be more prepared than I do because she doesn't know when I'm going to throw out my off
Wow.
speed stuff. So.
Wow, that was great. I don't know if you saw the video where they were like a bunch of the team was taking grounders at, like, it looked like second or short. And while the crowd was chanting, the players were all chanting, "Let's go Dodgers." It was like a total vibe. And like as like Haesung Kim like took one and like threw to first base, like they're all just cheering each other on. So it's not just the crowd that, you're used to getting crowd cheers. Like they were doing it for each other. And it was just like I saw that video and I got so excited to be there. Like, God, can my trip just come up like that much faster? Because I want to see that. Like, that's the stuff that's behind the scenes. You're not going to see that in a game. They're not going to just like randomly start chanting "Let's go Dodgers" to each other. But here they were, just in line taking grounders, each one taking their turn.
And Dodgers social media does a really good job of hyping them up. And one video that I think that really got me excited is they do those questions. I think you sent it to me. They ask the players questions. Do you want to set up the video, Amy?
Yeah, so sorry. They were asking players who would they not want as their emergency contact. And so they're getting each of the players as they walk into the facility before they go into the clubhouse. And I think there were a couple of favorites that I had in there, but like Yoshinobu was the first one, and he said Shohei, he wouldn't have him as his emergency contact because he'd be unlikely to respond in an emergency. And then you see them flip to Shohei, and all he says is, Yoshi said me. And then he's just like, Yoshi. that would be his
The
answer.
level of
Like,
petty. The level
yes.
of petty.
I was just like, oh, I am here for it.
Who knew that the unicorn would be petty, right?
But it was like, this is the fun. Like, and that's truly what it is. Like, they're all business on that baseball field, but when they're doing drills and they're like just working together, they bring that fun. And I love, like you said, the social media team does a great job of letting us see that behind the scenes, which just makes me love the team even more. They got around to, like, they were asking like Miguel Rojas, Evan Phillips, like they asked a majority of them. But Hae-sung Kim, he's the one who brought the logic. And I think that's what I messaged you. He's like, oh, I'd feel bad contacting my teammates. Like, I would just call my family or friends. And like, I get that the point is to have fun answering the question, but like, I heard his answer and I was like, yeah.
He's very reasonable. You know who else I think gave a really logical, reasonable answer was Blake Snell. I like Blake Snell's answer. He's like, I don't know what the hell you're asking me this for, and then walked away. I was like, as a Dodger fan, you should be very encouraged. Blake Snell seems like, I don't have time for your shenanigans. I am here to win baseball games.
But also, he doesn't know the team that well yet. Like, he's getting to know people. So I also took it like, I don't know.
Pert Plus, Tyler Glasnow totally was like, it would be Blake's. He wouldn't want Blake Snell. So like,
well, and there were a couple like
engaged.
Andy Pajes was like, probably Roki because we both don't speak the same language. And
that was a
you
good
know,
answer.
you had some of those. And then Mookie said he wouldn't want it to be Kersh because he has all the kids, so he probably wouldn't be able to get there to save him. So there were just like, I don't know. It was good fun.
It really makes you seem like as much as these guys pull for each other, they're really not reliable. Like nobody on the Dodgers, I think, is reliable.
Well, but you also hear like they've done this in the past with like, you know, who wouldn't you want to have like babysit your kids? And I think one of them was Gavin Lux, or you know, who has the messiest locker? Like those kind of things are just funny because you get to see their personalities more beyond what we just get to see on the field. And I don't know if you saw that Shohei played another prank on Dave Roberts.
I did see that. So he finally got did he get him another Porsche?
So he upgraded from the little toy car.
Yes. To a bigger toy car. For anybody who doesn't know what we're talking about here. So last year there was this big, to do because Mariachi Joe gave up his number and the unicorn. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, it wasn't for a number. It was all because Shohei bypassed Dave Roberts' home run player as the Japanese Dodger with the most
right.
home runs.
So, but I was setting it up.
I was like, no.
The unicorn gave Mariachi Joe's wife a Porsche. So then when the unicorn passed Dave Roberts, he gave Dave Roberts a Porsche. It was just a toy Porsche. It wasn't a. And so again, this spring, do we know why Shohei decided to give him another Porsche?
I did not see that in any of the clips that I saw, but you did see, like, if you watch the Dodgers social media, like Dave Roberts didn't know what it was at first, walked out, saw it, took a little selfie with it, and then went to go find his car.
Well, because it was parked in his parking spot. So it's interesting that he had the time to take a picture, because if I walked out there and I didn't see my car, I'd be more preoccupied where the hell is my car?
Well, given that, as we know, there's a security guard booth, so like nobody's getting in or out of there with anybody's car. So it's in there, but it was also just like, I love that his first thought was like, this is odd, let me take a picture with this, and then like, let me go find my car.
Yeah, so all this is part of spring training, ladies and gentlemen. This is all just to remind us baseball is on the way. Amie, do you have anything else on spring training before we move on to our next topic?
Actually I do have I guess 2 more things. Eddie Rosario did get signed to a minor league deal, so just throwing that out there.
And for those of you who don't remember Eddie Rosario, he was the guy on the Bravos during the 2021 postseason who killed the Dodgers. And apparently, since 2021, Eddie Rosario has not been as good.
So we broke him?
So no, it just goes to show you how weird and random Major League Baseball is. So when everybody at the beginning of the year, this is not fair, the Dodgers are just going to win, they could run into another Eddie Rosario this year in the playoffs and they could lose. That
Yeah.
is the randomness of Major League Baseball, and this is why you play the games.
And that's why you can't buy a World Series for everybody
Exactly.
who has that out there. The only other thing I wanted to bring up is Roki Sasaki did give Miguel Rojas a gift for we're assuming for his number 11 trade-off. It looked like rather expensive sake.
That's right. Suck it to me, baby. Yeah.
Okay, Austin Powers. Good grief. All right. But Miggy was basically saying like he's not attached to a number, like he did what he needed to do with the number 11, and now it's Roki's turn to go do something and add to the history of that number in the organization. So I was like, oh, that's poetic.
Before we talk about Roki and the Tokyo series, my last thought on spring training is this. I don't know if you heard this, Amie, but this was Dave Roberts. Dave Roberts made a quote here that he talked to James Allen and Andy Pages about his job is to make sure that they're prepared and ready to go when they get called up to the major leagues.
Oh.
So
called up, you say?
Exactly. Very interesting. I don't know if that was a Freudian slip. Paging Dr. Freud. Dr. Freud, you're needed at the front desk. Or maybe Dave Roberts just listens or watches our show.
Oh, that's clearly the more likely.
What did I say? What did I say on our last episode, Amie? I would not be surprised if Andy Pages started the season in the minors because of that crunch for the last spot on the bench.
And he has the options.
When I saw that quote, I was like, my eyes really, I was like, oh, so they're already preparing though, because it was, what did we do? What did we do the math? It was 5 guys fighting for 3 spots.
Mm-hmm.
What a coincidence that the 2 youngest guys, the ones that have options for the minor leagues, are already being told, be ready. Now, look, a lot can change between now and the start of the season, but it looks like Chris Taylor is going to be on this opening day roster, ladies and gentlemen. So, exhibit number 2 now of why professionals that are involved in Major League Baseball watch, listen, Baseball Shangri-La, and why you should tell your friends and everybody else that they should listen to our show, because we talk about the Dodgers here, we talk baseball, we talk movies, we talk the arts. This show has everything.
Speaking of Freud, didn't he have a concept on the ego or the super ego? What was that?
Hi-oh, paging Dr. Freud. Dr. Freud, you're needed on the front desk. Dr. Freud. Okay, let's talk about the Tokyo series. Amie, do you have any specific notes that you wanted to lead with first for the Tokyo series?
I didn't have too much other than like the big announcement that game 1 would be going to Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and then game 2 would go to Roki Sasaki, obviously because Shohei can't pitch in this series. And when Roki was asked about it, it's really special because it is. So
that's what I wanted to talk about. Are you surprised that they committed to Roki for game 2?
No. I mean, we know that he's going to come up at some point, and the fact that they have a little more roster flexibility with the Tokyo series, like it makes sense to like why would you not have him pitch there?
I understand from one angle why you want him pitching in that series. It's in Japan. The 2 Japanese pitchers that you have.
I think it's also just courtesy to the Japanese fans too. Like, why don't bring him there and not let him pitch if he is able?
Yes, I'm just this early, and I get it because it's an accelerated time frame. You don't really have that much time, but for me, I'm like, what if he has a horrible spring? Like, what if
they just let him open the game? What if he's an opener? Okay, he pitched. Now he brings somebody else in.
It just, if that's the mentality, the thing that really sucks to me is it makes it feel like it's an exhibition. And I have to remind everybody, these games count. These games count in the standings. And
They do, but it's not like just because they put him in, he's got to stay in the whole 9 innings. And I think that for me,
no,
that's where it's like, let him pitch.
I totally get that, but I guess I want to be that wet rag right now and let everybody know that this guy has not pitched in the major leagues. He is a huge question mark in terms of, we don't know what to expect. Yes, people think he's going to be great. He's going to be dominant and all, but we haven't. I mean, look at Yamamoto last year in Korea. Yamamoto did not look good. And immediately everybody's like, okay. And it turns out Yamamoto was fine. I'm actually expecting Yamamoto to have a really great season this year. He's looked in spring training. I get it. It's just throwing, but he looks much more comfortable. So I'm
He's
expecting
got a year to transition at this point.
exactly. So I don't think it's completely out of left field to sit there and go, couldn't the same thing happen to Roki? Like, I mean, there's got to be, Roki's a younger guy. Got to be nerves pitching in your home country. Why are you looking at me like that?
So what if it does? What if the worst case scenario happens? They pull him early.
No, I know. All I'm saying is I understand their motives. I'm still kind of surprised,
Really?
that he was.
See, I'm not surprised at all. Because I'm just like, we know he's going to come up at some point. Maybe he comes up, he's not ready even after spring training, and they send him back down. But I think it's much like this game is built to bring in the international crowds, which we would just be playing in the States. It makes sense to let him play. Not only, it's not just like an international game, it's an international game in his home country. So let him pitch there and then figure out what to do with him afterwards. If he can continue, great. Even if he's not fully built up, he pitches 2 innings. It's still, I feel like it's a win-win either way.
All valid points, and I totally understand where you're coming from. But again, hearing you talk like that makes me feel like this is an exhibition game. That those games over there, those 2 games in Tokyo, are exhibition games, and they're not really part of the regular season.
It's a little bit of both. It is an exhibition game. Otherwise, why would you would just play them here at either at home or at the away stadium. We'd either be here or in Chicago. It is part exhibition game. So it's still a game that counts, but it's still an exhibition game. We're not going full Savannah Bananas on it, but it's, you're not going to not trot out the players that make sense to pitch in that series or play in that series.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is, at the time of this recording, February 17th. These games are going to be played in less than a month. Mm-hmm. In less than a month, we're going to be waking up at the crack of dawn.
A month from tomorrow.
To watch these games.
Or some of us are going to wait till after the 90 minutes after and watch them on MLB TV when they wake up.
Where's your commitment as a fan to wake up at...
I've got bills to pay, bro. I need a full night's sleep.
Anything else on the Tokyo series before we move on?
No, it'll be exciting to see it whenever we watch it. If we wake up at 3 a.m, or if we watch it again at like 6
tape
when we
delay,
wake up.
ladies and gentlemen. See, back in the day, there was this thing called tape delay. But anyways,
I can fast forward all the commercials. It's great.
So we're going to wrap up the show with one of our favorite topics from last year. If you're loyal listeners, you guys knew that we probably had a segment, I think, on every show where we devoted to uniforms. Amie, what is the latest update on the drama, la telenovela known as Uniformes?
Ooh, as the Uniformes turns, they're reverting to the old style. So a little faster than, so it was supposed to be before the 2025 season, by the end before the 2026. Hopefully they roll it out sooner rather than later. But I saw on a page, I hope I say his name right, Kent Paget, at Kent Sports 24 on Instagram. Basically, the MLB listened to all of the complaints because they are changing back to the 2023 style. So they're still sticking with Nike and Fanatics, but there will be larger numbers and names on the back. The pants it'll go back to individual tailoring. No more see-through pants anymore, which means hopefully when people slide into home, you're not seeing everybody's chonies because their pants rip. And now we're seeing everything. And then when it comes to the gray uniforms, not only have they improved the gray sweat wicking so that it doesn't look like somebody just took a shower when they pitched, a third of an inning, but they're going to make sure that the pants and the jerseys are color matched so that they're not two different shades of gray. So basically, all of the problems from last year are being reverted to when we didn't have problems from the previous year.
And how does that make you feel, Amy?
Vindicated. There's
All
a
right.
song by Dashboard Confessional. It's playing in my head right now.
That might be the end of uniform talk. I mean, we might have to. No,
We gotta see it roll out on time first.
Okay.
Because look how many people didn't even have their actual uniforms till like mid-season. They didn't get their City Connect till way later. So
ye of little faith. Ye of little faith.
I'm just saying, don't hold your breath. While I love Dodger blue, I don't need my face to turn that color because I'm holding it in my naivete that it'll get fixed right away.
Oh, well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That's going to do it for this show. Next week, we are going to be talking about actual baseball games, and we are getting closer. As I remind you all, Amie is going to be providing us with spring training coverage. She will be in Arizona, so that's episodes down the line. We are going to be talking about actual baseball fairly soon. Amie, did it not feel like the off season just flew by?
Yeah, I'm not used to we went all the way into November, so we didn't really get a full off season, if you will.
Yeah, it feels short, but
Which
I'm
is
glad.
fine. I'll take it.
That's right. I'll take it. So that's going to do it for this episode. Shouts out once again to David Wants a Taco for the experience of watching the greatest film ever made, Michael Mann's opus, Heat. Amie, any last words?
I don't really know how to follow that up, my friend.
Hi, Al. There you go. So if you've been listening to us on the audio portion, please make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Rate us, write us a review, help spread the word. Tell everybody to come join the party. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. Hit that notification button. Give us a thumbs up. Leave us comments. We love engaging with you. Anything that we talked about on this show, please leave a comment. Let us know. And most importantly, make sure you're following us on social media. On X at BB Shangri-La, on Instagram, YouTube, Bluesky at Baseball Shangri-La. She is Amie Cuevas. I am Juan Ramirez, and nos despedimos con un beso. Amie, say goodbye to the people.
Goodbye, people.